I had always trusted my wife, Emily. For 6 years, we stood side by side, weathering the storms that life threw our way. Career upheavals, family chaos, and even a miscarriage that nearly crushed us both. Through it all, we leaned on each other. So when she asked if I'd accompany her to her childhood friend's wedding, I agreed without hesitation. I'd met most of her old friends before. It felt harmless, familiar. I wasn't expecting anything unusual. I should have paid more attention when she casually mentioned that her ex, Jake, might be there. The wedding was set in a quiet little town where Emily had grown up, just a few hours' drive from our home. She seemed almost giddy the entire ride, unusually animated. I chalked it up to nostalgia. Figured maybe she was just excited to revisit old memories. We checked into the hotel, changed into our formal clothes, and headed to the venue, a dreamy outdoor setup straight out of a wedding magazine, complete with fairy lights strung through trees, aged wine barrels holding floral arrangements, and a string quartet playing softly in the background. Everyone there seemed to be glowing with joy. I tried to let myself feel it too. For the most part, I did, but then the first red flag appeared. During the ceremony, I caught Emily scanning the crowd, not just once, but several times, as though searching for someone. Then Jake arrived, slipping in late during the vows. I saw her body stiffen almost imperceptibly, then watched a subtle smile form on her lips. Their eyes met, and they held that gaze just a second too long. My stomach tightened. I didn't say a word. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe not. At the reception, I stayed close. We danced, made small talk with guests, posed for pictures. I tried to laugh, to relax, to hold on to the good. But after dinner, Emily told me she needed some air and walked off. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Something inside me shifted. I stood up and began looking for her. She wasn't on the patio, not in the lobby, not in any of the obvious places. Then I turned a quiet corner near the hotel's garden, and there she was. Emily stood close to Jake, hidden behind thick hedges, just out of sight from the main festivities. They weren't kissing, but their posture was intimate, too intimate. Her hand rested gently on his chest. His fingertips touched her cheek in a way that spoke of old, familiar love. I froze. My breath caught. My heart didn't race. It simply sank. I watched them for long enough to understand exactly what I was witnessing. There was no mistaking it. No more benefit of the doubt. I didn't get angry. I didn't shout. I felt hollow, like the air had been sucked from my lungs, and nothing was left inside me. Without confronting her, I turned silently and walked back to our hotel room. I packed my bag with methodical hands, took off my wedding ring, and placed it on the nightstand. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a message. I just vanished, called a cab, and disappeared into the night. On the ride back, I blocked her number, muted every app, and stared blankly out the window. My heart wasn't broken. It had turned to stone. The moment I got home, I called my lawyer and set the divorce process in motion. I didn't need to hear her excuses or explanations. That image of her and Jake behind the hedges had seared itself into my mind. There was no coming back from that. It took about a week for the reality to sink in for her, that I wasn't bluffing, that I was truly gone. She started calling from other numbers, messaging me across every platform, desperately trying to reach me. I ignored everything. Then finally, I sent her a text. Just 2 words. I saw. That was all it took. Regret hit her like a tidal wave. I began hearing from mutual friends. People reaching out to tell me she was a wreck, that she'd stopped eating, hadn't stopped crying, was begging anyone who'd listen to help her contact me. I stayed silent. Some of them suggested I give her another chance, that maybe it was just a drunken lapse in judgment, a single moment of weakness. But I knew better. You don't stumble into someone's arms by mistake. That kind of familiarity, the way he touched her face, the way she leaned into him, that doesn't happen unless there's an emotional intimacy building long before it turns physical. Eventually, she sent me an email. It was long, spilling over with apologies and rationalizations. She said she missed me, claimed Jake meant nothing, said she'd had too much to drink, felt overwhelmed, lonely, Every excuse in the book. I didn't reply. What she didn't know was that I'd already moved out, found a new place, took the dog with me, changed every lock. When she finally returned home from that wedding weekend, she walked into an empty house. No furniture, no pictures, no husband. A neighbor later told me she stood in the doorway calling my name to nothing but silence. Then she sat on the porch and cried for 2 straight hours. Time moved forward. The divorce went through cleanly. I kept everything I cared about. She didn't fight me on a single point. I don't think she had the strength. Guilt had chewed through her resolve like acid. I never asked about Jake again. Whether he stuck around or vanished the second I left, I didn't want to know. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. I started therapy for the first time in my life. It helped. I traveled more, made new friends, went on a few cautious dates. Slowly, I began to stitch myself back together. I came to terms with what had happened. Even though I never truly understood how someone I loved so deeply could betray me so effortlessly. A full year after the wedding, I got a message from her sister. Emily had spiraled, drinking too much, isolating, sinking into depression. She couldn't hold down a job. Her life had begun to unravel. Her sister didn't ask me to forgive her, didn't plead her case. She just wanted me to know that Emily still thought of me every day, that she regretted everything. And that's the cruel truth about regret. It sticks, it festers, especially when you lose someone who loved you unconditionally. I never needed revenge. I never had to cause a scene, never had to scream or make a show at the wedding. My silence was louder than anything I could have said. My quiet exit said it all. Now, when I look back on that day, I don't fixate on the pain. I think about the strength it took to walk away from the person I thought would be by my side forever. I think about the man I became after losing her. And I know with certainty, she'll carry that regret with her for the rest of her life. I didn't destroy her. She did that all by herself. I just stepped out of the way.